Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of the Power series. Today, Positive Luxury's co-founder and CEO, Verde Nieto, will be in conversation with three amazing guests. The founder and CEO of the reuse marketplace Globechain, Al-Karooni, the founder and CEO of the innovative and bespoke luxury packaging company Delta Global, Lockyer, and the creator of the unique dining experience Una, Milesi. They will be discussing the benefit of continuously innovating. Before we start, I just want to let you know that you can submit your questions anytime during the webinar, and we'll have 15 minutes at the end to answer them. Over to you, Diana.
Thank you so much, Claudia, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Power Series. So, Robert, Martin, and May, I am incredibly grateful for you guys to take the next 45 minutes to share the power of continuously innovating. So innovation is one of those things that everybody talks about and sometimes hire other people to innovate, but actually it's normally the people within the companies that innovate the best. And you are as entrepreneurs, have a really good take on what innovation is, and thank you very much for actually sharing this with our audience today. So the first question is actually to Robert. You know, when the first time I met you, you run one of the most successful packaging companies in the UK. And when I met you, you did a pitch of why packaging was actually something that everybody has to reduce and that you had to make yourself redundant. So how do you reconcile sustainable packaging to the dream of luxury?
Thanks, Diana. Yes, I remember meeting you for the first time very well, and I think it's almost a paradox in many ways that one of our key strands, if you like, is reduction, and it does seem very odd that we're talking about reduction. And when we talk about reduction, what we're really talking about is that, you know, we have to think about what we're using and why we're using it, rather than just standardizing things, which is why it's so important, you know, from our perspective, that we are always innovating, because you can't just keep using the same thing that you've used for a long time, because it's not always suitable anymore. And you've got to think about why you're using what you're using, who's using it, what's the end user like, and then what's its reuse. But not just what's its reuse. We did a series over Christmas, the 12 days of sustainable Christmas, of how you could reuse pretty much every piece of packaging that we would potentially supply, and making sure that through innovation and through that reduction strategy, you can actually make better use of what you're using, not just using more of the same thing.
Thank you so much, Robert. And may I ask that everybody mutes their microphone if they're not speaking, so that way we can avoid the feedback. Thank you very much. And then a question is going to go to actually Martin. I mean, Martin, you run a fantastic restaurant in the clock tower of King's Cross. How cool is that? So how is the food industry preparing to get out of lockdown? And also, you know, can you tell us more about how Una was born? And I must add, when I met Martin's Argentinian and so am I. And when I met Martin, I love his passion. His passion for food, his passion for England or Britain, the passion of newness and the passion of innovation. Maybe something that Argentinians share, I don't know. I think everybody has passion. But I just love your absolute enthusiasm and your enthusiasm about the future as well. So over to you, Martin.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon for everyone. So yes, I think it's very exciting news, because restaurant business can come back to life again. Some of them are very happy, some of them are very struggling yet. But we are very much looking forward to open again our project. Una, it's a very disruptive, unique concept that has been created in my mind 12 years ago. We transformed something that already exists, which is a restaurant, a traditional restaurant, into something totally different. Una basically is a culinary project which consists to create gastronomic experiences around just one table. So we have only one table for 12 people in our dining room. So we are the innovation of the dining room. We are disruptive because we have a kitchen team working exclusively for a group of people. There is no restaurant beyond the dining room that we have. We are an ephemeral restaurant because we do not open every night. We open only by request. If the client wants to open the space, we open for them. So opening by request allow us to buy food. So in some way we are very sustainable, because myself go to the market, to Board of Market, the Whole Foods, to buy organic food and to create the recipes with my own hands. So it's very intimate project. We promote connection also because it's only 12 people in the dining room. People do not know each other, which is an amazing experience because every night is totally different. We like to think out of the box also. That's why we create something that didn't exist before. And we like to inspire people, because we really believe that chefs must to be entrepreneur in this restaurant world. Yeah, so we create an experience. We like to make people happy. Basically, Una is a dream came true simply because we put all these ideas in one concept, and it's something that I always dream for.
Thank you so much, Martin. And I mean, May, innovation at Globechain. I mean, what you have created is something very, very special. Can you tell us a little bit more about your project and what is the idea behind the company as a whole? You are mute.
Yes, see, I was too diligent. So yeah, absolutely, thank you. So I set up Globechain around 5 years ago, and my background actually was investment banking, and the office moved across the road and disposed of their furniture. And at the time, I just thought, why is no one digitalized waste and connected these large corporations to charities and small businesses to reuse? And that's really kind of when Globechain was born. And I set about, like, as a small project in Verde at the time, and thought, let's just connect everyone together. And you know, Globechain grew into kind of 3 sectors: retail, construction, and hospitality. And it went beyond the furniture. So predominantly the items on the site are fixtures and fittings, obsolete stock. We do construction materials, so everything from lighting to flooring, from the stores all the way to demolition, and hospitality, chandeliers to the bedroom furniture and computers. And we've got around 10,000 members, and in UK, Spain, and actually we just launched in New York earlier this year, just before COVID. And with respect to innovation, I actually bootstrapped it for 4 years because there was no market caps. There was no such thing as kind of sustainability in those days, and nothing about reuse. And particularly in the B2B space, there was a lot of consumer type things like Free Gumtree and Free Cycle, but nothing really to connect all these companies together. So we started collecting data on social impact. So we collect something called ESG data, environment, social governance data, and that's actually used quite high level on like credit financing, bond risk, share pricing, IPO, as well as obviously P&L and sustainability reports. And over the years, basically, Globechain's just grown to be a nice monster, if you like. And obviously, as everyone knows, sustainability is at the forefront now. So I guess from the experience we've had is we had to create kind of an unknown business model and lead the way using our intuition, but also kind of pioneering companies really pushing us to go down this route. And it wasn't till 4 years down the line, there was a market cap, the circular economy, at 4.3 trillion, and we were generating revenue. That was when actually we managed to get VC funding and really like ramp up the technology and things. But actually, if it wasn't for the pioneering companies coming on board and what in essence was like an idea at the start, we wouldn't have got off the ground, because we needed them to understand where their problems were and create obviously solutions around that. And what Globechain is now is based on those handful of clients in predominantly retail. Actually, we started off with, we worked with one of the largest retailers in the UK. It was one of the first clients to come on board, and then we moved into restaurants and things like that. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And this is something that everybody around, well, virtually around the table have in common. You know, all of your businesses started with just an idea, and you are running, you know, some of the most pioneering companies to date. So, I mean, I guess the question to all of you, and, you know, you can choose who would like to lead this, but what do you expect for the next 12 months to be the new normal? And what are the changes that you are seeing now that you think will stay? And what are the changes that we are seeing now that I think they actually will not continue?
Shall I go? I can go first if anybody. Basically, what I see actually is in COVID, what's happened is people have kind of gone back into themselves as consumers and companies and really reflected on what they're doing and how they're moving forward. So there's a lot of focus on health and well-being, ethics and integrity, and in our particular situation, it's supply chain and transparency of it, particularly with the logistics and the consumer side. And my theory around it is what we're seeing at the moment is foundations of all these companies in the retail space are kind of collapsing. You know, there's no more kind of set in their ways of the last 30, 40 years. They're having to really reinvent themselves. And yes, we've got e-commerce, people are doing more online, but actually what's happening is it could help those entrepreneurs inside these organizations, because when foundations are collapsed, it's a great way to bring in new innovation and easier. You know, there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. There are a lot of people that want to push things in, particularly in sustainability, but there was never a budget. They never took it seriously. You know, and don't forget, these companies have stakeholders and shareholders. So if somebody's positioning something brand new and innovative, they're going to be like, well, when are we making our money and getting our dividends? And I think because some companies are really struggling at the moment for obvious reasons, this is actually, they've got nothing to lose by testing something new, because it becomes kind of a survival technique. So we see this as quite an interesting environment economically and socially to be in. And it could be great opportunities for the ones that can really grab it and take that risk and move forwards.
I think we've certainly seen, you know, from our own business, we obviously trade across both bricks and mortar as well as online space. And we've seen an absolutely huge surge in the online clients as opposed to the retail clients. Predominantly, obviously, most retail clients have been shut for the last 3 months as deemed non-essential. And we are really starting to see that differentiation in terms of brands understanding that the online space has become incredibly important, and making sure that it's personalized as opposed to it being a faceless scenario. And we have a lot of discussions here, particularly when a product arrives, you know, a piece of shopping, whether it be from an athleisure, whether it be food, whether it be fashion, cosmetics, whatever it might be, any form of luxury. It's ensuring that when that arrives, that the attention to detail for it is even more important. You know, we see an awful lot of product coming across our offices when we do a lot of comp shopping to see what people are using. And there's a real distinction between the ones that are doing it well and the ones that are just simply trying to rip the costs out of it. For example, you can see different brands have turn up and it looks like it's been around the world several times. And you have to ask yourself, does that company really care about me as a customer and me as a client? Do they value me? Or am I just another number on a spreadsheet or just a number in a database? Whereas the people that are doing it well and will continue to do well and benefit as we come out of it will be the ones that are putting an extra bit of care and attention, so that when that arrives on my desk, your desk, anybody's desk, for example, you want to feel like at that point you are the only client of that brand, however big it is, whether it be one of the biggest global luxury brands or whatever. And you know, it's having that personalization, I think, is so important. And you know, some of the brands we're working with are doing it really very, very well. And it's just about how do we carry that on? How do we not forget it as we come back to what may or may not be the new perception of the normal? And I think that's so important. And what we have seen is that flexibility of workspace, work life, and a lot of these things that have been forgotten about in our commodity world, in our immediacy world of our want it now, have it now, deliver it now scenario is having that balance and understanding that, you know, we are all real people at the end of the day as well. And let's not forget that. Let's not lose that. You know, the world has had a real kick up the ass over the last 3 months, and it's been coming for a while. And it bridges all the things that we're already talking about. But it's understanding that we can't go back to where it was, and we've got to embrace the new normal.
Yeah. In my scenario in the restaurant business, I think there are two main things, at least in my project in food business. First of all, I think restaurants are realizing that the client is not only present in the dining room. So restaurants now have the chance to create new endeavors, even more related with technology. So I think delivery is the new pop-up restaurants. The pop-up restaurant 7 or 10 years ago was an amazing concept that people was very eager to be present in the options that the market offered to the people. But now I think delivery is something, it's the new black, because people is more keen to get an experience at their own home. And even though some people is eager to be outdoor, trying to enjoy a pint of beer or food in restaurants again, I think from September, October, or the end of the year, the people will come back to the delivery service. So I think it's very important for restaurants to develop new ideas and new concepts where chefs can be closer to their clients. So I think it's very important to be collaborative between restaurants and companies like Delta Global, for example, because the presentation of the food in delivery will be super important, because even more important than the food itself, because when clients receive a new idea of food delivery, I think it's the luxury fine dining at home is something that will happen in the near future. Also, I think that the events in terms of brand marketing and PR will be smaller. I think the brands will not have the opportunity in the near future to organize massive event for thousands of people spending millions of pounds. So I think it's more important to trust in concept like Una, for example, where brands can organize a very unique and tailor-made events to promote themselves, probably for a small quantity of people with a lot of spread of the world.
I do think that you're completely right that for now staying at home is the new way, but I think people will want to start going out slowly and just mingling and actually interacting, because I think what we all had is although it's quite, the world outside looks quite scary, I think the face-to-face interaction and meeting with friends and meeting new people and so on, I think everybody's kind of anxious to kind of start going on and start getting on with all of that.
Definitely.
But I think that it's going to take a little bit of time perhaps for people to adapt, but I definitely think that people are ready. Well, I am ready. I hope that you guys, I don't really know, but I think everybody had enough of working from home. Also, I have a question in terms of each one of you are entrepreneurs and have gone through different recessions, different business models, changed things. What is the one thing that you think is a constant in order to keep relevant and to keep innovating? Because innovation is not something that you do one-off, it's something that you keep doing. So what would be your advice into into keep innovating in everybody's business? I don't know if I'd like to start with you, Mary.
Yeah, for me, when we set up, really it was the companies that helped us. As a small business, you rely on revenue from companies to help you boost and grow the team. So for me, it's really about asking the right questions and understanding the market and understanding, like, for example, in retail, everybody operates and executes differently, but really the kind of the outcome and the problem is the same. So it's like, how do you develop a system that can help everybody and streamline things and make their life easier? And really it's just about asking the right questions, but also from a larger company perspective, especially in the retail. These retailers have very, some of them, not all of them, they're very old kind of systems, EPOS systems, very old systems set up. And a lot of the time when they want to take on new technology or new innovation, they can't because of some legacy products that's been there for like 20, 30 years plus. And I think what really helps is creating something simple. It's really nice to have AI and whatever else and all this fancy stuff, but does it actually help them at this stage? You can integrate AI 5 years down the line or 2 years down the line if you're with a customer. And I think it's really about not trying to jump too far ahead and grow something quickly. And sometimes as well, a lot of these companies I notice now are incubating particular types of small businesses to really get under their skin, help them, invest in them, whether that's time, talent, knowledge, to build them. And even they have spaces, they work from those companies, in the spare desk, and I'm sure that's going to change going forwards as well. But I think those kind of small little helps would really help innovation inside and externally, because that you get an understanding of actually how something is. There's numerous occasions when people have said to us, this is it's just a website. I'm like, no, this is like, nearly £1 million worth of effort over 5 years. And that kind of understanding has come from like the talent that you bring in or people that you work with to get it. And small businesses can work quickly for big companies as well. And also collaboration. In the past, it was very much about brand. Making sure that there's no competition between other brands. But what I'm noticing now is a lot of people are talking to each other because they have to, but as a network, it's very powerful to gain knowledge and go, listen, we tried this. They don't have to disclose all their IP secrets, right? And I think that's going to be even more going forwards. Really, it's going to be about trust and transparency and being a bit more agile in working.
Thank you, Martin. What about you? What do you think is the one thing that we can do?
Well, we create Una on the basis that we need to have time to be creative. So I think creativity is a method, and we must to take care of the time that we have to be creative and to innovate. The last time I have a situation like this lockdown, it was 10 years ago, and it was in Brazil, working in Brazil. And I had the idea to open a space like Una. So I think time, it's mandatory for creativity and innovation. And I think in our business, the restaurant needs to be even more creative in how they organize shifts and how they make profit with less clients and less staff. So it's very important to create time to be creative. So I think that's the key at this moment, and I think that was very inspiring in the lockdown.
Thank you so much, Martin. I mean, last word to you, Robert.
I think the one big difference for us is we've had a huge investment over the last probably 12 months launching Delta Global Intelligence, which is really pulling together the entire supply chain of luxury sustainable packaging, because we find, in a lot of brands that we work with, actually managing the product and managing the use of the product has been pretty much lacking in a lot of business, even some of the very big businesses. you know, they can't identify what they've got, where it is, whether it's correct or not. And we thought, well, you know, there isn't anybody in our sector doing it, and I think, why can't we? We are a medium-sized business, but we're very, very agile. We have no outside shareholders at all, which is quite nice. So we thought by bringing in Delta Global Intelligence, that really is a very clever piece of technology that we pulled together over that period. And it's really looking at, you know, what's in the supply chain, what's in manufacturing, what's on the water, what's being used. It does have, unfortunately, artificial intelligence built in there as well for things like identifying when a spike becomes a trend, for example. So, you know, what you don't want to do is see a spike in a usage of a range of product and have a reaction to that, which means you make up more product, and it turns out it was just a spike, it wasn't a trend. So then you end up with too much of the wrong product being made in the wrong place. And what Delta Global Intelligence effectively does is manages that on a global scale. So you've got different products being used for the same brand in different areas, because the product mix or the usage and the demographic is different around the world. So what it's looking at is it's reading that data all the time through the usages that we're getting from the clients, and understanding why a certain range of product is being used in a greater level of detail, say in the Americas, but it's not being used so much in the Asian market. Now we've plugged that into our manufacturing base as well, so it really is from start to finish to how it's going to be recycled or reused, and that for us is huge. And I suppose the second piece of that, and one thing that we've had in our industry for a long time, is that speed to market, and we think that is an equal game changer, because if you're looking to develop a new product or a new range of packaging, but you have to wait 3 to 4 weeks for the manufacturing side of the business to make that sampling, then the moment's gone. You know, the world moves like that, as we know. So we've actually brought all of our creative and all of our sampling in-house back into the UK. You know, we had a creative team just a year ago, 18 months ago, of maybe one full-time and one part-time. We now have 7 people in our creative department. We have an in-house sampling situation here as well. So assuming we have the materials to make it from, we can turn around a fully made production sample within 24 hours. Now, if it's a speed to market, quick launch, maximizing an opportunity, then you want to see a real physical product. You can do 3D renders, 4D renders, all these kinds of things. But if you say, and then it looks like this, it has a huge impact. And all of that is also controlled through the Delta Global Intelligence platform.
Well, that is true innovation. So thank you so much for sharing. So we have also a question for you. And I don't know if Claudia is going to put it on the screen, but the question for you is, has lockdown helped you to be more creative and to innovate, whether it's in your business or in your daily life? So if you can take a few minutes to actually answer the poll, will be fantastic. Hopefully you guys are answering the poll. We have about a minute to do so. And when you're answering the poll, we'll move into the Q&As. So the first question, if you can mute your microphones, would be great. Thank you. What can a small business do to begin their journey towards innovating away from the status quo? So what can small business do to begin their journey towards innovating away from the status quo? Who would like to take that question?
I'm happy to take that question.
Go, Robert.
I think the key thing is communicating. I mean, I think, you know, I've been to a lot of seminars and a lot of Q&A panels, and it's being prepared to communicate what you actually want to try and achieve. Don't be scared to evolve. Don't be scared to challenge. Don't be scared to question. Innovation and sustainability at the end of the day is a journey. It's not a destination. And to move away from the norm is just to open up a communication. Talk about things, look at what is possible, challenge. Just because you're being told that's what's available, challenge it, and then challenge it again. If you don't get to where you think you want to get to, don't ever stop challenging. And We try and encourage that across the teams here in our offices in the UK, as well as around the world. And I think that, ironically, that's what helped us develop Delta Global Intelligence. We were told it couldn't be done. We were told it couldn't be available. We were told it couldn't be done for less than a huge amount of money, and that wasn't true either. And why was that? Because we kept challenging. We didn't want to be part of that status quo that was saying, you can't do it that way. Well, my favourite question here, and I'm sure it drives people nuts at times, is why? Why can't it be done? How far have we pushed it? How many times have we asked? Who else can we bring in? Who can we reach out to take some advice, to take some thought leadership from? I mean, that would be my take on it.
Thank you. This is a question for Martin. This question, is for Martin. Do you organize private events, and how do we book a table?
Can I promote myself here or not? I don't know.
Of course, you will have to invite us all for dinner, but go for it.
Yes, we do private events, of course, because the table can be hired for one person and for different brands. So we do for individuals. Also, we organize tailor-made events for brands that want to create something different for their clients or buyers through my website, unalondon.com.
Thank you.
It's very easy. You send me an email, we find a date and availability, and then we organize the event according the needs of the client.
Thank you very much. This is a question for May. Do you have any advice for a small jewelry brand who would like to move towards a circular model? Where should they start?
Yeah, I would, if you're a jewelry brand, I would start, look at the transition in circular economy. There's different stages: product design, manufacturing, production, packaging, so on, in the linear model. From a jewelry perspective, I'd probably start as the jewelry design and where you source the materials from, and really challenge the suppliers to be more ethical, or if you can find ethical suppliers out there. So I would start there, and then look at your designs and see, they should be jewelry is pretty durable. It stays for a very long time and keeps its value. But, is there a way to modularize it, or do something where, once somebody's, they have a bracelet, can we make earrings out of it afterwards if I get sick of the bracelet? It's like, and then that becomes like an interesting revenue model, because you could send the bracelet back to the jewelry maker, and maybe they could create, and I could pay you to make the earrings out of it, and then it prolongs the life of that material and product. So, I mean, that's just an idea top of my head. I'm not a jewelry expert, but I would be keen on something like that. There's a brand called Elvis and Cressy in the market that do handbags, and they work off a modular design where it can be a rug, then a handbag, and then they can move it onto things. And they pick very specific types of materials that cannot be recycled in the market. But I would say start like that, and maybe talk to some of your most loyal clients at the beginning, because for us, the companies that we dealt with at the beginning, we're really honest with them. They know we're small. And we were saying, like, what do you need? Is this rubbish? Is this great? Like get somebody asking those questions, because people will be honest with you and they trust you more. If you can fix what they don't like, to me, that's a successful product, because people aren't going to just tell you your product's rubbish. They just won't buy it, right? So I think you need to be confident and ask those questions and take that criticism, and then keep testing. Keep testing, and if you fail, it doesn't matter. Just get up really quickly. Don't mourn it. And that's the way. And that kind of goes back to Robert's comment about how can you innovate. I think it's a lot to do with confidence. As a small business, you took that risk and jumped off the cliff at the beginning, and then you get into some kind of like safety zone. And now what COVID's done is just shut all that out again. So you need to get that confidence and believe in yourself and believe in your products, and you just need to go for it. Like we fail every day, we do something and it doesn't work, and I'm just like, just own it, take it, move on quick. Like there's no conversation about it, so yeah,
that's great piece of advice. Fail quickly. My co-founder always says that. She founded actually Top Table many years ago. She sold it to Open Table, and she always say, fail quickly. Okay, so go back to innovation. And the question for all of you was, has lockdown helped you to be more creative and innovative, whether it's in your business or in your personal life? 32 of you has said yes. So that is about 80% of participants have said yes. So clearly COVID has been a great help to innovation. And we have time for one more question, and this will go to Robert. I will love to hear Robert's thoughts on initiatives such as Repack. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it, yeah. I think that there's lots of propositions around repack, return, reuse. There's a huge market now, obviously, in terms of pre-loved, the new name for second-hand, I suppose, that is growing massively. And one of the things we try and do is to make sure that anything we create from a packaging perspective has at least a second and or third life. Now, whether that be that you use it again as a return item, whether you use it as a packaging item for something else, and then if once it's come to end of life, it's making sure that every facet of it can be recycled. I mean, we have lots of conversations, particularly around users of polythene product, and they say, but it's code for plastic, it can be recycled. Technically it can, but there's not a single council with a curbside recycling that will take it. But you know, from the plastics industry to saying that it's code for it can be recycled. It can, but nobody wants it. It's as simple as that. So it's having that honest conversation about what is the second and third life, and having that like you said earlier, the challenge, that get up and go and have another go at it and look at different things. And we've had, you know, I've spoken to you before, Diana, about some projects that we worked on where we've had products that have been laminated and had magnets in and all these kind of things, but they still have to be robust and travel around the world. And between ourselves and our manufacturing partner, which we invested in 2 years ago, we said, well, you know, the magnetic closure wants to stay for whatever reason, but how do we get it out? How do we make sure that you don't need, you know, a Stanley knife or a saw to get the magnets out? And we created a system whereby you can actually pop the magnets out of the packaging really, really easily. They could be reused as fridge magnets or whatever you want to use them for. And then when the box itself is at end of life, it has no laminations on it anymore. The magnets are now out. You can then put the box straight back into recycling, back into that chain, so it can be repurposed and reused. I mean, you've heard me talk before about, you know, everybody talks about the 3 R's as being reduce, reuse, and recycle, but we've always said it's 4 R's. It's reduce, reuse, recycle, and repurpose. There's so many things that we can use these things for. And certainly every time, particularly on the online space, we always encourage, actively encourage that the box or whatever package can be used is returnable, so that it can go, it can go there and it can come back, ultimately a there and back piece. So there's lots of options, and there's lots of things that we see in the marketplace, but we still haven't found the utopian situation yet. But it will never stop us from looking for it. That's the key.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Marty and May, for joining us this very hot afternoon here in London. So, and for giving time and thought and preparation to today's webinar. And without further ado, I also like to hand it over to Claudia. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, May, Robert, and Martin, for your time today. Next week on Thursday, yeah, thank you. On Thursday at 2 p.m, we'll be discussing the power of luxury, conscious travel with 3 amazing guests. And as usual, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter to receive your invitation. And a last thing, we are preparing for our second series of webinars in September, and that would be great if you could please email us at hello@positiveluxury.com to tell us what you would like to hear. Thank you all for joining again. We hope that you enjoyed this webinar, and see you next week. Thank you.